Welcome to The Learning Curve, the podcast for parents and educators, where we discuss positive parenting and supporting your child on their learning journey. As parents, we all want to provide the best possible environment for our children to learn and grow. But with so much information out there, it can be overwhelming to know where to start. In this podcast, we will explore practical tips and strategies for promoting positive parenting practices that can help your child thrive. From building strong relationships to fostering independence, we will cover a range of topics that will help you support your child's learning journey and promote their overall well-being. Join us each week as we interview experts in the field, share real-life stories from parents just like you, and provide actionable advice to help you navigate the challenges of parenting in today's world. Whether you are a new parent or have been parenting for years, we believe that every parent can benefit from a little extra support and encouragement along the way. So let's get started on this journey of positive parenting and supporting our children's learning together.
All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Learning Curve with Lakwai podcast. Today, I have a special guest with me. Her name is Allyn Miller, and she is a Master Certified Parent Coach, and she's the owner of Child Connection. So from that name, you know that it's all about connection and also how to manage yourself and your child. So her mission is to help exhausted moms thrive in every upset or meltdown of a child, whether it's their own child or their own personal feelings and emotions as well. So, Allyn, welcome. Do you want to introduce more about yourself?
Sure. Thank you, Lakwai. I'm so happy to be here and to offer something to your audience. And yes, thank you for that kind introduction. And a little bit more about me. I am a mom of 2 kids. My daughter is 9 and my son is 6. And it was about 3 years ago that I actually started this parent coaching journey. But if I'm honest, my actual journey into parenting probably started when I was a teenager during my summer of sunscreen and slippery kids. Because I was a YMCA lifeguard, and part of that was just an expectation that you would teach swim lessons. And at that point, I had never been a babysitter. I had no interest in being around kids. And so here I was teaching swim lessons to tiny little people that were all covered in sunscreen. And I was so afraid I would like let them slip out of my hands and they would drown while I was supposed to be teaching them. I had nightmares about it. And so really that might have been the starting point when it occurred to me, oh my gosh, I'm gonna grow up and be a mom someday. This could be terrible. I don't know the first thing about kids. I'm not going to be able to take care of any kids, much less my own. Oh my gosh. And so that was more kind of like a subconscious awareness. And then I carried on, went through high school, went through college, started looking for jobs, and, was on that path to be independent, professional woman. And still, I knew I was going to be a mom, and I had not really figured out what that would look like, because part of me just assumed I would be a mom like my mom, a stay-at-home mom, fully involved with the kids all the time. But here I was on like a professional path. And so I was really in kind of unknown territory and like unconsciously unknown. I thought it was just going to unfold and work out. Like, I'll just cross my fingers. Everything will be okay. Everything was not okay, because by the time my son came along and my daughter was almost 3 years old, I was rocking and rolling in preschool classrooms. I loved being a teacher. I loved my students and families. And I did not love how I didn't have anything left for my own kids. And I really kind of felt like a fraud. If the parents of my students saw what happened in my own home, I don't think they would let me be with their kids. But I was giving my best to my students, and I didn't have anything else for my own kids. That was kind of the tipping point, if you will. Then I just got lucky during the pandemic and found the parent coach training program. And I thought, ooh, this is exciting. I love working with parents. I know they are their child's lifelong teacher. So rather than just have one school year with students, why not work with the parents that get to help their children throughout their entire life? That got me really excited. Here I am now, a parent coach working with parents.
Nice. It's because of your firstborn that triggered you to help other parents as well, connecting with other parents by taking up the parenting coach certification.
Yes. And I kind of knew in myself that I wasn't going to be a classroom teacher forever. Coincidentally, our family moves a lot, and it's really hard to get certified in a new state and to find a new job as a teacher and to coordinate schedules with your kids and all the things. So this different career opportunity just checked all the boxes that I can create my own schedule. I have flexibility to move, which we are doing again. And I get to be more available for my own kids while still serving others in a really impactful way.
Yes, I can totally feel it when you mentioned about how take care of other kids, but when it comes to your own kids, it's like all the different thing that is happening. And when handling your own kids and handling other people's kids is a very, very different game.
Yes, it is.
Responsibility as well. Yeah, I still remember when I was working part-time in the student care, a child vomited. I was like running away. The other senior teacher was telling me, like, you need to clean up. I was like, what? So all these things that you don't get to do it until you become a mom. You have to clean anything. No matter it's not, you have to do everything. And that's how you get your hands dirty and really you feel like you're a mom. You are a mom.
Absolutely. As I hear you speak, I'm having all sorts of flashbacks of memories of the infant phase and toddler phase where it is truly messy. You just can't make it through that stage of parenting without facing some really big messes.
Correct. Yeah. Because a lot of time, like nowadays, especially with social medias, we always see like very beautiful pictures of kids running in the garden, smiling away, happily playing, but behind the scene is like, wow, they are like screaming, rolling on the floor. Sometimes they just get so stressed out because as a mom, not like in the past where moms are usually stay home, they can focus on the children and the home. Nowadays, parents are usually they are working as well. So coming back, before you step into the house, you already hear your child screaming, one on the left and one on the right. you tend to get stressed up and very tense. Step in, the first thing you want to do is yell. You just want to let it out. I mean, I used to be like that as well. It takes a lot of time and consciousness to be aware of the emotion. Of course, sometimes I still blew up. Like in my case, or in most of the parents' case, how do you manage or how do you guide the parents to manage this kind of emotional roller coaster between the work and home?
Yeah, that's such a great question. And I want to acknowledge moms that do still make the choice to focus all their time and energy in the home, because I'll be the first to say that that is work. That is valuable work. That's a whole different discussion around gender norms and expectations and unpaid labor and the emotional labor. So, hey, if you're a stay-at-home mom, I applaud you and I thank you for making yourself available to support your family in that way. It is true for moms that are choosing to also have another job outside the home. There can be so much that builds up during the workday. And then when you reunite and reconnect with your children, when you come home, it's really hard to separate everything that's built up during the day. Maybe not even separate, but just to acknowledge whatever you're feeling so that when you are with your kids again, they are still getting quality time with you. I was about to say the best piece of you, but not even the best piece, just that you do have something available for when you reconnect with your kids. And that's what can be really hard.
Yeah, the reconnection part is not easy, especially when you just step in the house and all you want is some peace and quiet and some rest before you start working again as a mom, taking another role, another job when you're home. Is there any situation where parents or moms especially, they still find it hard to control? Like what kind of strategies will advise them to take note of, or what kind of awareness they have to take note of so that they'll be aware and they can slowly work on their kind of emotions and behaviors in themselves so that they can also show that kind of behavior to their children?
Yeah, absolutely. I also just want to share that I think there are a lot of different names for the same kind of situation. Some people might say, oh, I'm stressed out, or others might say, yes, I get triggered. And others might say, I lose it. I flip out. And so whatever words you use to describe that situation, it's kind of that tipping point, the straw that breaks the camel's back, where all of a sudden you're letting out your big emotions in ways that you don't want to. There are definitely things that parents can do, moms can do to support themselves. Like you just said, the awareness really is the first piece, because if you're not able to notice any patterns, or if you're not able to notice what is kind of happening in the background leading up to that triggered moment, it's going to be really hard to do anything differently. I think a step that a lot of parents skip over because they want to use advice around how to help their children with their big emotions, or use the greatest tip on what to say when. Before that, you've really got to check on your own stress levels. And so that's why I have this number one tool for moms to keep cool. It's not just a quick fix. It really is a process that builds your awareness of your real stress levels. The reason I say it that way is that, let's see where we are in the year 2023. We are on the other side of a global pandemic, but for a while, we were all at ridiculously high levels of stress and anxiety for a really extended time. I think it's quite possible that we have kind of adjusted our awareness to let that be the norm. Our bodies and our systems really not have adjusted all the way back down to how we were operating as our status quo before the pandemic. So I just want to offer that reminder that all of us have gone through this really massive tilt towards high stress, high anxiety. This process that I offer in the tool to keep cool is just checking where you really are. And I use a metaphor of a volcano so that it's like, that explosion, but what else is happening before that? You might be able to catch yourself sooner. You might be able to step in and help yourself sooner. That's where I think the awareness really comes in, that if you see yourself yelling a lot, if you see yourself just kind of like in that like resentment place, like, oh my gosh, I just want my kids to be quiet. Can't I even get like 1 minute to myself? You're not stuck there. It does not always have to be that way. And you don't have to wait for your kids to grow up and move out of the house. You can do something now so that you can feel better, so that you can show up for your kids, so that they have the parent that they need and deserve.
So agree. And this kind of awareness is not easy to build in a way, because there are so many things that get piled up in ourselves that we have totally forget about it and lose it at times.
Exactly. One other thing I want to mention, especially with like the toddler age range, they are such mirrors for things that we haven't thought about in a really long time. And so I know for a lot of moms, the toddler stage is hard because all of a sudden this little person that was so innocent and vulnerable and didn't go anywhere when they were a baby is now upright and starting to speak and exploring the world in really big ways. Sometimes that trigger can come from that like chronic sort of ongoing stress, but it also can come from reacting from what we learned at that same stage. We don't really remember our lives as toddlers, but our bodies and our systems remember what happened when we did certain things. And so if our parents acted a certain way when we did things as a child, when our child does those things, we have a pattern that our brain leans into and says, this is what you do. And so I think for a lot of parents that seems scary, it's that sense of like, I don't even know why I'm doing that. I don't know where that comes from. That's where it comes from. In the neuroscience world, those are your implicit memories, that you can't tell a story about what happened when you were that young, but your brain implicitly has that reaction stored and it is ready to deliver now that you're a parent and you're seeing that in your own child. I just want to offer that as well for people that are like, but I'm not really that stressed. I do take care of myself. I am supporting I am aware. I get it, but then I still snap and I don't know why. That could be a different underlying reason why. Big hugs to you. And again, with this different level of awareness, you might be able to start making different choices, that you're not going to keep reacting this way forever.
A lot of us, that we don't really realize that when we are parenting our children the way we are being parented in the past.
Yeah.
Or
exactly.
maybe we are being parented in this way, we try to avoid that and parent in the opposite direction. But it is still affected by how we are being parented from the past.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up, because without somebody's kind of outside view, and this is hard when you are looking at yourself, it's really hard to be objective. And so this is why I love my role as a coach, because I'm able to see things that you would not be able to see from inside your own experience. And what you just described is exactly it. A lot of people, if things worked out well enough, hey, I'm a great functioning adult with a good life, I'll just do it the way I learned how to do it. And then for others that really have that sense of, no, that was not okay, I don't want the same thing for my kids, and then they do the direct opposite, which is not necessarily what they do want, but they're so determined not to repeat old patterns. They flip to the other side, and then they realize this still isn't working either, but now they really don't know what to do because they just don't have the information to find that middle road and to find that path that is what they want. And so again, that's why I love being a coach, because I know what those options are. and I can lovingly see where somebody has come from, what's happening right now, and help them guide themselves towards the direction they really do truly want to go, because it is possible for everybody, and everybody's path is going to be a little bit different. It's very exciting for me over here to see those possibilities. And I know that for parents that are like in the middle of trying to figure it out, it's hard. It's really hard and really painful. I've said it probably 3 times already, but I'll say it again. You're never stuck where you are. You are never stuck where you are. And it's possible that you do need a different type of support to really get on track with where you want to go.
I agree. A lot of people think that they can actually read about it and learn from the blogs or the books, but in actual fact, actually you need someone to really guide you along how to maneuver your motherhood or your parenthood along the way. Because a lot of times we don't see our blind spot. We are always wondering whether this is right or wrong. If this is not working, we try the other way. And we try so many ways, and then after that, you feel like you're giving up. You just let it be. And things will start to snowball.
Yes, I can use myself as an example. I still am a very imperfect parent. And to be fully honest, when I joined the parent certification program, my primary intention was going into that as a professional choice. Like, oh, this is going to be an amazing career opportunity. Like you said, I didn't know what I didn't know. I had blind spots that I was unaware of. Once I was in the program, it was like the second week, I was like, oh my gosh, now I know why I'm really here. This is not a business choice. This is a like turn your life in a whole different direction and like really see what's happening kind of choice. I got way more benefit than I thought I needed. I'm so glad that I did, because most days I felt, this is okay, this is good enough, or this is a phase. And so we're all just going to get over this somehow. What I learned was, no, it's not just a phase. Like you can do things today that really make a difference in supporting yourself and your children. And that my life was, a series of phases, and some things worked out really well and other things I'm still working on. Being able to start this sort of journey with your children when they are very young, you get to create more of those things that work really well and have fewer of those things that it's like, oh, whoops. Yeah, they might still have things to work on in their 30s and 40s, but it won't be as much. You can lay a very strong foundation starting from earlier ages, and there's no wrong time to start either.
Yes, I agree with that. We have to start earlier rather than waiting for something to happen and then you start figuring out what to do. But in actual fact, we have to lay the foundation with a child at the very, very beginning. But a lot of parents, like us as well, we forget about that. We think that, that this is a little kid, a little baby. They won't remember much. We just play with them, that's enough. We just make them happy, that's enough. But what we are doing together with them or doing to them is actually building that kind of character in them as well.
Absolutely.
That character, that behavior is a reflection of us most of the time.
Yeah, I'm seeing like this circle of our conversation that we started with, you're feeling stressed. What do you do? And like, where does that come from? And sometimes it can be coming from your past. And to lay that foundation to support your children earlier than later, it does start with us. It's this kind of combination of how can I help myself so I can lay the best foundation with my kids? And how else can I grow so that I can offer these amazing gifts to my kids? I've kind of come to a conclusion that a lot of parents like worry about the teen years. I like to say how you parent your toddler is more important than how you parent your teen. Because like you said, maybe we don't worry about the kids when they're little because they're just little. They won't remember it. They grow up so fast. And the truth is that the systems and the development that is in place for a teenager starts when they're very little. And so there really is a huge opportunity to put in that support from a very early age. And then quite possibly when that child is a teenager, It's not that it's not going to be hard, and it's not that things aren't going to happen, but they will be more equipped to be receptive to your parenting, and they will be more equipped for all of those skills that you do want to see when they are a teenager. If you're worried about the teenage years and you have a young child, go ahead and get started today. Even if you have adult children, there's still so many opportunities for, making small changes and shifts in your parenting. And a lot of it with adults is the way you communicate. The connections with young children are a lot in that emotional space, witnessing the big feelings and being their safe place for all of their upsets. With adult children, we have our bad days too. We have our upsets and our fears and our worries and, bad stuff that happens. You can still support your adult child in that way. It just looks really different. So it's all good. Wherever you're starting, just go ahead, get started.
Yes, it's never too late.
Yeah.
When you have an adult child, I think you can look yourself as a mentor to your child rather than a parent. I think that will build a connection closer.
My personal view of parenting is that I'm not here to teach them about life. I'm actually here to keep them alive and stay out of the way. And yes, children need a caring adult to take care of them. But I also kind of view children as the most innocent, the most sort of pure, and life kind of gets in the way. Life really kind of can put a damper on their spirit, on their passion. If I can be the one that kind of keeps that path clear and tries to not be one of those blocks that gets in the way of who they are as a person, then I've done my job pretty well. I know that can be hard because I think a lot of our own inner children want to kind of relive life the way we wished it could be when we were children. And so we think, oh, well, I wish I had that as a kid, so I'll give that to my kid. That's not what parenting is about, unfortunately. If you can, find a different way to take care of your inner child so that your true child in your family can be their own authentic person, then they're going to be so grateful when they grow up.
I agree, totally agree. Wow, we have talk about from toddler, baby age, all the way to adult child, and how to manage ourselves so that we can parent our children from young all the way to the adulthood.
I can imagine some listeners thinking, now, wait a second, we were talking about stress and triggers, and you told me that if I'm more aware, then that's helpful. But once I become aware, what on earth do I do? And so I definitely want to give listeners kind of a tangible takeaway. I know for myself, I just kind of roll my eyes when people say, well, just take a deep breath. And I'm like, I want to take a deep breath. I want to show people I'm mad. I want to let this out. I want to offer two things for those moments when you do feel really stressed, when you do notice you are about to lose it all over your kids. If you're in that moment at the height of your trigger and your stress, there are some things that you can do to at least redirect what is about to come out away from your kids. And so for me and my body, I notice that my hands get really energized. I love, I do in that moment, yes, yelling is a thing, but also it's I want to hit something or throw something. And that sounds awful, but as an adult, I can work with that in a way that's going to be productive and not destructive. Sometimes what I'll do is I will just pound my fist into my own palm. That is just a little, it's releasing the pressure on a pressure cooker. It's just letting out that first little bit so that I don't keep riling myself up further. So I might just pound my fist and I'll tell my kids, I'm so riled up right now. And so I'm just going to help myself. And that way they know it's not about them. It's not because of them, even though I might tell myself a story that it is, and it's not directed at them. This is just me doing something to help myself. Sometimes a scream is the thing that's going to feel the best. So if you can just scream up at the ceiling, just I just have to scream right now. let yourself scream. Just like, don't scream at your kids. Don't scream angry, hurtful words at your kids. You can still let yourself scream up to the heavens so that you can let that out. If I can imagine people thinking, this lady is bonkers. She wants me to pound my fist and scream at the ceiling. Like, I am not going to do that. My kids that's going to make them even more scared. So I will offer one technique that's a little bit quieter. And yes, it is based on your breath. It's not just, oh, take deep breaths, because your breath and the way it works with your nervous system is that when you inhale, that's activating your sympathetic nervous system, which is your get up and go and mobilize and fight. When you exhale, that's activating your parasympathetic, the slow down, put on the brakes, resting system. So if you're going to try out some sort of breathing to help yourself in that moment, you might do a quick inhale and then a little bit slower exhale, like a quick in and then 2 counts out. And then your next breath might be another quick in and 3 counts out, like, and then you might keep repeating that, always keeping your exhale just a little bit longer than your inhale, so that you're getting more into that slow down, calming down branch of your nervous system. So I think a mistake that a lot of people can make, because they just don't know any different, is that they like take a deep breath and then it's like they take that big inhale and it's up in their chest, and that's actually activating them even more. And so then they're thinking, well, I did my deep breathing and it's not any better. So the way that you're doing some deep breathing really matters. Just remember, short in, long out. And that will buy you just a little bit of time so that you could possibly make a different choice.
Wow, that is definitely very useful.
Your brain science lesson for today.
Yes. So I just tried that just now. It's like, actually, not only it calms yourself down, but it also like very soothing for your body as well. You tend to like not only calming down your emotion, but also your tension, everything is being released from that breathing out.
If I were to yell, I need to take a deep breath in before I yell. And so if you're literally in that millisecond before you start to yell, you can remember, I'll just like blow out a candle. So it's like, and it could look and sound that ridiculous. That's okay, because that's still one step better than yelling at your kids. Any tiny little step counts as success in my book. That's the other thing that I do love about coaching. I know myself and I can really easily find the silver lining. And so somebody might tell me like their big challenge of the week, and I can reframe it and say, I see the success in that. I see what you are accomplishing in that. I see the strengths that you have in what you've shared with me. So for people that are just really down on themselves and don't ever think they're doing a good job, or see that they're just a failure left and right, I would love to talk to you, because I know that you are not a failure. And I know that I can help you find something that you are doing really well. Like, your kids are still alive. They still wake up every day and like have another day. They haven't, run out of the house to go find a different parent. You are still doing a good job. Keep going. There's always room for opportunity, learning, and growth.
That's really, really, really comforting to know. And we also have to know, like what you mentioned just now, that we are all not perfect, and we are all also finding ways to maneuver through this parenthood as well. I understand that you also have a special free gift for all the listeners.
I mentioned it way back in the beginning, but yeah, it's my number one tool for moms to keep cool. And yes, dads, if you happen to be listening, it absolutely works for you too, and grandparents. But really, it is a process that helps you gain that new level of awareness, so that you can start to understand a little bit more about when you're flipping out and notice those patterns. It's a process that helps you check in with yourself before you get to that big explosive moment. So you're giving yourself some different opportunities to scale it back or to get some help or to do some breathing, so that maybe if you're yelling every single day at your kids during bedtime, maybe there's one day this week that you don't yell at your kids and that you keep paying attention. Maybe there are 2 days in a week where you manage to not yell at your kids. And so I think that's the other thing I really like to share with people, is that nobody is going to make sweeping changes overnight. Case in point, last week, I yelled at my kids 3 days last week. And, years ago, I was that mom yelling every single night. I had a really good stretch earlier this year where it's like, does mom yell? No, mom doesn't yell. But then last week was different. I let myself know that I understand where it's coming from. I know what I can do differently, and I'm going to keep going. I'm not going to beat myself up about it. And any tiny bit of progress counts. Let yourself celebrate any tiny win, and know that every mistake is another opportunity to learn and potentially do something different.
Oh, nice. For those listeners who are listening, you can get the tool from Allyn's website, which is www.child-connection.com. Keep cool-gift. Right.
And if that's too much to remember, just come find me on Instagram at child_connection and send me a DM and say, hey, I heard you on the podcast. I want that tool thing. And I will send it right over. I love chatting in the DMs. I love hearing everybody's story, because it's true. Everybody has their own story and their own gifts that they bring to their family, for sure. I'd love to hear what's going on and what's happening in your family.
Thank you, Allyn, for all the sharing, and especially that technique as well. How to keep your mom cool, how to keep yourself stress level down in a very, very simple way.
Thank you so much for having me. I love this conversation. I love everything that you're bringing into the world too. And I just really appreciate you having me on your podcast today.
Thank you, Allyn, and thank you for all the listeners who are listening in. And I hope you find this very useful. For more details about Allyn, you can find on my show notes and on my Instagram as well. So do stay tuned for all the updates, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you for tuning in to The Learning Curve, the podcast for parents and educators. We hope you found our today's episode helpful in supporting your positive parenting journey and your child's learning and development. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite listening platform so you will never miss an episode. And if you found value in what you heard, we would appreciate it if you could leave us a rating and a review. This helps us reach more parents like you who could benefit from our content. We also want to hear from you. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback, please don't hesitate to reach out to us through our website or social media channels. We are here to support you on your parenting journey and are always happy to hear from our listeners. Thank you again for listening, and we look forward to sharing more valuable insights and strategies with you in our next episode.